All right, United States women's national team are gearing up to face off against Wales. It's going to be a good match. I think Wales is looking at this match as a real opportunity for themselves as well as a program. They are, they fell just short of qualifying
Hmm.
for the World Cup. They're going to be one of many nations, having to watch this from home. So the fact that they get a chance to get another run out there as part of a build up to a World Cup, I think they're going to lean into that as well. Yes, they are a 30 ranked FIFA team overall, but they named their roster already last month, pretty early as well. I think right around June 22nd. And they've got some familiar faces on the roster that folks might be familiar with. They named back in June, of course, to that roster included Jess Fishlock of Lorraine, probably the most iconic player at this point for Wales moving forward. But Angar James is on this list as
Hmm.
well, someone who had spent some time in NWSL. But lots of players across this roster that you could see that are tied to teams in England or Women's Super League teams as well. If you're joining us live, again, one of the perks of subscribing to Attacking Third is that you join us live and we get all of these cool graphics for you up on our YouTube videos so you could take a look at all of the players who are going to participate with Wales. But from top to bottom, I think with goalkeepers all the way through to forwards, there are maybe some players here that could cause some individual problems for the U.S. women's national team. I think maybe there is a question mark though around Jess Fishlock in this match. We just finally got to see her get some
Yeah.
minutes with All Rain after being sidelined with a little bit of a lingering injury.
Yeah, I think we could see her step up into this camp and get minutes, right? I think it's a really good opportunity for her to play against the United States. As you mentioned, it's the first time that Wales and the U.S. are going head to head. With this Wales side, the fact that they're playing outside of Europe, that's the first time that they're doing it, and they're going up against four-time world champions. When you look at that, I think for Jess Fishlock especially, she wants to get out there and she wants to get minutes in California for this match. I don't think a full game just based on return to play and minute management for Jess Fishlock, but I think we'll see her for sure get minutes. But yeah, there's a lot of good players on this list that can come out and make a splash. As you mentioned, with this Wales side, they just barely missed qualifying for the World Cup this year. It was
Yeah.
a single leg match that they ended up losing in the second round of the UEFA playoffs. It was 2-1. Switzerland defeated Wales, but it was a close one for them as they tried to break through with that. And that's kind of when you look across like the other nations, of course, going to the World Cup and who they're playing and the preparation for them. I think that's kind of interesting to see that who the United States could get, frankly, to come to them in the United States before going to a World Cup. And that's probably why it came down to a Welsh side that they get to play against, which I think is good competition. Any opposition, as you mentioned right before the break, Sandra, there's not this doom and gloom fear to play the United States anymore. It's a bit of a challenge. It's a bit of an opportunity for nations to go out, keep them scoreless, hold them to one goal, whatever that may be, get one in on the Americans. And I think that's kind of the energy that this Welsh side is going to bring against the United States on Sunday for sure.
All right, so we're chatting a bit about this whale side and who we might see and who are some players that, we're curious about, getting some time on the pitch against the U.S. women's national team. So let's pivot back to the home side here and talk a little bit about the United States. Mentioned Black Landonowski during media day, was asked about this specific send-off game, and he said that they want to use this as a game of preparation before they head off to the group stage in New Zealand. So maybe that shakes things up a little bit in terms of who we will see versus who we want to see in this match moving forward. Do you think, in your opinion, we might get a look at Ananovsky's ideal starting 11, at least for that first group match against Vietnam in the semi?
Yes, I do think to start the World Cup, we'll get the A squad, the number one group out there for Vlatko Andonovski. And I think that is pretty set in his mind, barring any injuries or restriction in minutes that come. However, when we look at Wales versus the United States, I don't think we're going to get the A team to start. I think that he's going to have a little bit more rotation, get players minutes that really need them, and maybe conserve some of the players that don't need minutes. And I'm going to be really frank with you. I don't know what that looks like for a Rose Lavelle, a player coming back from injury. I think she gets minutes in this match, in this friendly versus Wales, but I don't think it's a full game. I don't think that the way we see her play is the same way we're going to see her play in the World Cup. I think it's going to be a building block and a stepping stone from not playing a match since April to potentially playing 80 plus minutes come 2 weeks time in Australia or in New Zealand when you're going up against Vietnam. Because I think that's the goal for Rose Lavelle, for Vlatko Andonovski, and for this team to get her to be at 80 plus minutes come the start of the group stages. So I think we see her against Wales, but I don't think it's more than maybe like 30, 45 minutes. And that comes down to, for me at least, training staff and warm-ups, how that works, right? Sometimes you see it's like, okay, no, you're going to go right from warm-ups, you're going to start the game, and then you're going to come out at 45 minutes. And other times it's like, no, we're going to really warm you up for 45 minutes of that first half, and then you'll get in the second half and see how things go. But I think that's a player that we haven't seen in a while that we will see on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm very curious about it myself. I have a piece out there right now about Rose Lavelle. I got the privilege to go and hang out with her for a little bit in Seattle ahead of the World Cup, and we talked about some varying things and took us through some of her routines in terms of what she's been doing behind the scenes to make sure that she does get up to speed and ready for the World Cup. So check that out on cbssports.com. But the fact still remains, haven't had a competitive match since mid-April. The last time the United States women's national team even had a series of games. So I'm very curious about it. I'm also curious about like how they scouted Wales, because what does this coaching staff see for Rose Lavelle in a game like this against Wales? Do they value a first half kind of build up, or do they value an off the bench moment for her? Is Wales going to be a team that presents a series of challenges and game scenarios in which things are difficult for them to unlock things? So maybe you bring her in the second half. If that's the case, if during that first 45, this team struggles to unlock things. So I'm curious about that, because there is that question mark. It's like this player has to get some minutes before they go off to the World Cup, right? That's like the most obvious question.
Yes.
I think how they're going to look, I think, is that sub question within this one.
I agree completely. I want to ask about the goalkeepers though, because we have 3 goalkeepers called in. Alyssa Nair, who has been the number 1 keeper for Vlatko Andonovski in this U.S. side for a number of years, but she's struggling a bit with her club team in Chicago Red Stars and really not looking like she's in top form. Now, it's a different ballgame when you get into the national team. Who knows the form right now for Nair? But then you also have Aubrey Kingsbury and Casey Murphy, 2 players that are headed to their first World Cup, under 20 caps for both of them. Kingsbury only 1 cap, but in my eyes, Casey Murphy is kind of in that second keeper role. Do we get to see time from Casey Murphy in this game? Is Alyssa Nair getting the start? What do you think is going to happen between the goalposts?
You know, I don't think Kingsbury gets minutes in this game. I think I would even venture to say that, like, hey, whoever gets this game in post is going to get that first game against Vietnam. So if it's Murphy in net, I guess they're riding with Murphy. If it's Nair in net, they're riding with Nair. So I'm curious about it. I think, it presents a little bit of a kind of a champagne problem as well.
Yeah.
I think the fact that you have 3 goalkeepers that you're taking to the World Cup, that you still have this question around in the send-off game, I think could be a little bit of like I said, champagne problems, and like, who is it going to be? I think at this point they've got a couple weeks here that have built up to this World Cup, where they're just trying to establish the camaraderie and the confidence. And I think that obviously is going to include the goalkeepers as well. But I think coming into this send-off game, they actually have all had an elevated rise in form, and I would include Alyssa Nair in that, despite the very early struggles that the Red Stars' overall defensive structure had within probably the first, let's be generous here, like first 6 to 8 weeks of the season. The final 4 weeks that she had building up into this, I think she had much better form. So I don't know. There's some folks I see in the chat, giving their opinions about the goalkeeper position, and maybe Nair does start and Murphy comes on in the half. I don't really like that though. I think you need to pick a goalkeeper, whoever it is, whoever the coaching staff decides, they need to give that goalkeeper that game, and that's it.
I think it's
I don't want.
I
don't want to see a split 45.
Yeah, I think as much as I want Casey Murphy to have experience, as much as I think the U.S. will use Casey Murphy throughout the World Cup, I think against Wales, you throw out Alyssa Nair, you get that backline solidified. Remember, this is the first time that the team will be without Becky Sauerbrunn in the facility, right? Not on the bench. She's not part of the team. She's out due to injury. And this is the captain, the player's captain, someone that they lean on game in and game out, and Vlahovic has to move forward without her, as do all the players. Yeah. I think it's going to be Alyssa Nair starting in goal with the two center backs, Alana Cook and Naomi Girma. He's going to have that trio defensively in the middle, locked down, get them time, get them minutes, perhaps a full 90, right? Maybe 40 or maybe like 80 if one of them subs out one of the center backs. But I'm thinking a full 90 for those three, the two center backs, Cook and Girma and Nair.
I think that's an excellent answer that you sort of get to another one of those sub questions. Like, does this send-off game look and or feel different in the preparation if Becky Sauerbrunn is healthy and able to go? Right? Like that's also the other side.
I think it does. But that's like kind of a moot point at this point.
I think it's valid though. I think if you've got not one but two starting center backs who are going to their first ever World Cup, you're going to have another first time World Cup goalkeeper behind them. I don't think so.
Yeah, nope.
I don't think so. I think if Becky Sauerbrunn is available, maybe that makes it a harder question around the goalkeeper position, but Becky Sauerbrunn is not available. So if you're going to have two new first timers, you're absolutely going to go with your experienced goalkeeper.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it'll be Nair full 90, and then Girma and Cook in the center back, perhaps maybe like Emily Sonnet sliding in there at the end of the game just to get minutes. Like, I don't know. That's like comes down to like the tactics and the conversation that the coaching staff and the players have.
So we talked a little bit about Rose Lavelle, and she maybe kind of checks off two boxes in terms of like who do we want to see get minutes and versus who needs minutes. But I think with those two questions, who we want to see get minutes and who needs minutes, I think those also might be a little bit of moot points, because I would even argue like let's remove someone like a Savannah DeMello in this equation, because that's an obvious answer. Who would need minutes in this game? Well, a lot of people might say Savannah DeMello because she doesn't have a cap going into this World Cup. But if this game is going to be utilized as an actual game of prep going into and build up into the group stage, who actually gets the minutes?
That's such a good question. I love it.
Let's just start. So we already talked a little bit about the goalkeepers. We mentioned already about who we think we're obviously going to see in the center back position. Who else do you maybe see getting a shot at making this ideal starting 11 against Wales?
When I look centrally, like at the midfield, that's where we're going to start. I think Julie Ertz, I think we see her in the defensive six position. I think Lindsay Herrera. I think we're going to see Rose start and not get a full game. I just think like the way warm-ups happen and preparation for the game and how a player, how their body's feeling, that's when you usually give them the run right at the start of the game. But I think that Ashley Sanchez can make a run for herself. I think there are going to be moments when she's going to be called upon to play different roles throughout this World Cup, and that Vlahovic is going to ask different questions of a player like Ashley Sanchez, whether that is getting starting nods throughout the World Cup, which I could see happening for her, or it's coming in and closing out games, or being a different playmaker in the midfield, as someone that can kind of balance the two ways that you see someone like Rose Lavelle play, and the Lindsey Horan. Rose Lavelle, who loves to pick up the ball in space, run at defenders, run at back lines, run through the lines. That's how she breaks lines. Rose Lavelle is running with the ball. Lindsey Horan, much more of that 8 type of midfielder that will play the ball through, look to switch it from side to side, connect short passes with a Julie Ertz that's right in next to her. And how can Ashley Sanchez balance both of those, right? Whether she's playing alongside Rose or Haran, or even if it's Christy Mewis in there. But I think Ashley Sanchez is one that Vlahovinovsky is going to want to get time in this match against Wales, especially in front of a Julie Ertz, maybe alongside Lindsay, alongside Rose. Having that combination of play in the midfield is going to be really crucial. And then in terms of Savannah DeMello, I honestly think we see her against Wales. I really do.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, like, if so much in terms of like nerves, you just get it out of the way for the player, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? She could go through the World Cup and never step on the field, never see a single minute. However, if the moment comes where she gets to play in the World Cup, I don't think you want that to be her first cap. I just don't think that like nerve-wise, emotionally, it's good for a player when you have this send-off game, when you have 15 minutes at the end of the match, right? Say he gives Lindsey Horan a 75-minute game. That's when you throw in Savannah DeMello, and she'll finish out the game in the midfield, getting her first cap, finishing out with 15 minutes. You just don't risk that in an injury situation at a World Cup, throwing a player into the mix. You know.
No, I don't disagree with that. But there's still a part of me that wonders if she is going to get those minutes. Look, I think that's what I'm also looking at in this game. The seriousness of it all, like how serious is not just the players, but both the coaching staff and technical staff as well. Gonna view and game plan for this match against Wales. So I would love to see DeMello get some minutes before going off to a group stage with this team, but I really don't know. And I don't know. I think the other question of that is it going to be longer than 15 minutes or shorter than 15 minutes? Like how does that window look for this player moving forward? But we're talking about players that we might see on both sides of the ball in this game. We're talking about what we would like to see, who we think we need minutes. So let's finally just close it out. Let's make a pick. What's going to happen in this game? Who do you think is going to end up on the scoreboard? Do you think this might end in a draw? That's also possible too. What do you got in this one, Lisa?
I see the U.S. winning, taking the win in this one. I want a shutout from them. I think a shutout will be really, really crucial for whoever's in goal. I'm going to say Alyssa Nair, but really crucial for Girma and Cook, the center backs. I think they're going to kind of hang their head on that. As a former defender, you do pride yourself on shutouts, no matter if it's your fault, if it's not, right? You are proud of a shutout, and I think that's going to be really crucial and a goal for these center backs. In addition to maybe playing out of the back a little bit more, connecting with Ertz really well, having good triangles, 1-2 touches, making clean, crisp passes. It's going to be an emphasis for Girma and Cook. In terms of score sheet, I want to see Alex Morgan get a goal. I think she's going to be crucial for this team throughout the World Cup. I think she could be a starter heading into this World Cup and throughout of it. So I want to see her kind of start off on the right foot with her 4th World Cup, get a goal in the send-off series, and keep the train running. I think Smith as well. The players that I want to have big World Cups and that the United States needs to have big World Cups, it starts now in this send-off game, and that there's a lot of pressure on Sophia Smith, but hey, that's how diamonds are made, with pressure. And I think that Smith can handle it. I want a couple from her in this send-off game.
I'm with you. I think in terms of the defensive responsibilities, they want that clean sheet. They want to go into the group stage with that. They don't want to concede. So I'm with you. I want a clean sheet from them. I want it to be 0 on one end. And on the other side, I'd like 2 goals. Look, I think it might even possibly be even more narrow than that. Maybe it is a 1-0. We saw that come out of the April window against Ireland. It was tough for them to unlock some things and finally get the ball in the back of the net. So I think this one will be narrow as well. So I'm looking, I want a 2-0. I don't know if we're going to get a 2-0. Hopefully we get a 2-0, and I want to see goals from Smith and Williams. I want to see a front trio of Morgan, Smith, and Williams. I think this is the trio that you try to really build around moving forward into this World Cup. They have excellent options in the forward core, whether it's Morgan, Williams, Smith, Rodman, Thompson, etc. I think there's excellent options here. But I think as far as your usual suspects, the trio that you want to get rolling, cohesive, building that chemistry, I want to see Williams, Smith, and Morgan.
I mean, those are the three going forward, right? Like in terms of like a team, at least for me, that it's Alex Morgan, Lynn Williams, Sophia Smith. Those are the three starters going forward throughout the World Cup.
Yeah, we're both in agreement on that. So I want to see it starting with Wales, and I want to see a couple goals from either of them. So I would anticipate that Alex Morgan is already gearing up to play that role that she's used to playing with this team. And I call it, the get your butt beat challenge by Alex Morgan. She just goes out there and absorbs so much contact and pressure, just being kind of that target forward and being the Alex Morgan of it all, and defenders sort of flock to her. So maybe that will open things up for these other two players. And I want to see it. So let's get a shutout and let's get a couple goals.
Frankly, the trio of Morgan, Smith, and Williams is very dangerous because of how these players play, right? You just talked about Alex Morgan and how much contact and physicality that she draws in a game. And frankly, she can withstand and withhold. So she'll play a lot of that, like back to goal and dropping underneath, connecting with Rose, overlapping runs with Rose. And then on one side of her, you have a Lynn Williams that's fast as lightning and that it catches opposition really off guard. And with a quick switch of the ball, getting the ball to Rose or Lindsay Horan in the midfield, and then finding the outlet in Lynn Williams is going to be really dangerous. That's another element that Williams provides, and depth in that front line. And then a Sophia Smith, you get her the ball on the flank. She can cut inside. She'll dribble at back lines, and she's so good with the ball at her feet in really tight spaces, running at opposition. It's almost a triple threat that you have in that front line. And that's why those three are going to be the three moving forward for Vlatko Ananovsky, and they're going to be really dangerous. And I want the combination of those three to be really good in this Wales match. And I agree. I think it'll be a low score line, but depending on who gets the goals between those three, I want Smith and Morgan. I want the third to be involved, right? Whether it's an assist from Morgan to Lynn, or it's an assist from Lynn to Soph, or whatever that may be. I want all three of them involved in scoring opportunities for the U.S.
I'm with you. I hear you.